I booked the cheapest Airbnb I could find. That was my first mistake, though honestly at the time, it felt like I'd hacked the system. Everyone complains about rising travel costs, hotels overbooked, prices spiking just because there's a festival in town, hidden fees stacked until you're basically funding a CEO's private spa day. But me? I found this deal that felt too good to be true. 3 nights in a cozy little cottage just outside the city, less than half the price of everything else in the area. The photos showed a clean, modern studio apartment. Neutral colors, a minimalist style, bed pressed neatly against the wall, a small kitchenette, even a little potted plant on the shelf to give it that Instagram life vibe. The description barely had 2 sentences. Quiet, private, close to town. And look, I wasn't looking for luxury. I just needed somewhere cheap. Besides, the host seemed normal. Her name was Linda, her profile photo a slightly pixelated shot of a middle-aged woman with curly hair. Reviews were limited, like barely 3, but each one said some version of a decent stay. Would recommend it if you're on a budget. Good enough for me. Booking it felt like a win. I even bragged to my friends in our group chat. Guess who found a whole private apartment for the price of a shared dorm room? They sent laughing emojis and little good luck gifs. I didn't care. When you're working part-time, cheap wins. The drive out of town took me past a string of neon lights, fast food joints, and eventually tapering streets where the houses grew a little sparser, the lawns a little wilder. By the time Google Maps announced I was arriving at my destination, I'd pulled into a dead-end street, the kind where only locals lived and porch lamps flickered like tired sentries. The Airbnb was tucked behind a sagging wooden gate. The cottage was small, painted ivory, but weathered by rain. It had charm, I'll give it that, even if the charm leaned toward grandparents' unused guest room. I hauled my overnight bag inside. Immediately, I noticed the silence. Unlike hotels with the distant hum of elevators, the muffled laughter through the walls, here there was just me. No footsteps above, no car horns outside. Just quiet. The interior was exactly as pictured. Neat, minimalist, maybe a little too neat. Like someone had worked hard to design it for a photo, but no one ever actually lived here. The potted plant on the shelf looked fake up close. The coffee mugs were brand new, sticker residue not yet scrubbed away. I set my bag down, plugged in my phone, and that's when I noticed it. A blinking red light. It came from the corner of the ceiling near the kitchenette. Small, subtle, like the glow of a charging LED, but once you noticed, impossible to ignore. At first I told myself it was just a smoke detector. Except, smoke detectors don't usually blink red, at least not continuously, like a heartbeat. I grabbed a chair, stepped up, and squinted. It wasn't a smoke detector. It was cleaner, rounder, almost like a lens. My stomach made a tight, uncomfortable twist. A camera. I stepped down quickly, pulse hammering in my ears. I even turned in a slow circle, scanning the rest of the cottage. Another glint caught my eye near the bookshelf. Another in the corner above the bed. 3 cameras. My throat went dry. Now, news stories flash through your head in moments like that. Creepy hosts spying on guests, hidden CCTV setups, videos uploaded to shadowy corners of the internet. It felt like every headline I'd skimmed over the past few years had suddenly come to roost inside this single-room cottage. I yanked out my phone, ready to text my friends, maybe even Linda, the host herself. But then another thought formed. If Linda placed cameras, would she admit it? And who else might be watching me right now? The rational part of me argued maybe the cameras were there for security, maybe they weren't active. Maybe. That's when my screen lit up. A new message. Unknown number. You look smaller in person. The words burned against the dim glow of my phone. I froze completely. That message wasn't from any of my contacts. My number isn't public. The only person who had it here, theoretically, was the host through the Airbnb platform, but this wasn't from the Airbnb app. It was a direct text to my phone number. I typed with shaking fingers, "Who is this?" 3 grey dots bubbled up immediately. The typing indicator. Whoever it was, they were waiting. "Smile for me, Gabby." The phone almost slipped from my hands. Every horror instinct inside me screamed leave. Pack my bag, run out the door, drive anywhere else. And maybe I would have. But fear has this way of paralyzing you first, anchoring your feet while your brain runs screaming through every worst-case scenario. I shut the curtains, searching every corner of the room for more cameras, though each time I thought I'd found them all, another glint would reflect back at me. 5 cameras. 6. 7. Different angles, all pointing inward. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. My phone buzzed again before I could breathe. "Don't cry. I just want to see the real you." I hadn't cried. Not yet. But something about the message, the presumption of it, snapped hairs down my spine like static electricity. I typed again, "I'm calling the police." And for a long moment there was nothing. No typing bubbles, no new notifications, just silence. I almost started believing they'd backed off, whoever they were. That is, until my TV, which I hadn't even touched yet, clicked on by itself. The screen lit up, static fuzz at first, then color bled in. Me, sitting on the bed. On the screen, my face stared back at myself, frozen in panic, lips parted, eyes wide. I turned my head to check the camera above. The angle matched perfectly. I was streaming, live, inside my own rental. That's when the audio kicked in. A distorted male voice rasped through the TV speakers. "Perfect!" I tore the plug from the wall. Sparks snapped. The TV died into blackness, but the silence afterward was somehow even worse. I sat there, barely breathing, the smell of charred plastic wires in the still air. My knuckles were white around my phone, my entire body aching with the effort to stay steady. The screen buzzed in my hand again. Another text. "Unplugging doesn't help. I already see you." I dropped the phone onto the mattress like it had burned me. My heart thundered in my chest as I staggered toward the tiny kitchenette. My mind swarmed. Should I leave now? Run outside, across the dark street, pounding on a neighbor's door? But what if every step outside was already being watched as well? 1,000 unseen eyes. I forced a breath, bent down, and yanked my bag from the corner. Shoving my charger, laptop, and half-folded clothes inside. Keys, wallet, shoes on. Just go. That was the survival instinct pounding in my skull. Get out. But when I turned toward the door, my blood froze. The doorknob was turning. An unmistakable grinding of metal against metal, twisting from the other side. My mouth opened, but no sound came out, my throat tight, locked by terror. All I could do was back away as silently as possible, though every floorboard creaked like a siren beneath my weight. Then, the knob stopped. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Silence pressed against my eardrums until the noise of my own pulse felt deafening. Then faint footsteps, moving away from the porch. I didn't wait to wonder if they were truly gone. I lunged forward, turned the lock once, twice, hearing the mechanical click-catch as proof the door was secure. Still, that didn't erase the image of someone standing there, just beyond, listening. I staggered backward, again repositioning into the center of the room like an animal bracing itself. And then the TV came alive again. I hadn't plugged it in. It shouldn't have worked. No cable was connected, no electricity feeding it. Still, the warped glow spread across the screen like infection. Rolling static dissolved once again into color, This time, not just me, but the room itself. Lines, grids, timestamps scrawled across the corner of the image. It wasn't a simple recording. This was a full CCTV interface. Multiple squares filled with angles of the same space, overlapping each other. The main bed, the kitchenette, the bathroom mirror, even the view of the locked front door with no one outside. 9 angles total. My stomach churned. Every direction I turned, the cameras turned with me. But in the main window, the one streaming the bed, there was something else. Another figure. For a split second I thought someone had come in. A shadow, faint and hazy, standing directly behind me. Instinct sent me clutching my bag, spinning to face it. Nothing. Just empty cottage air. Yet, on the TV, the figure still lingered. A tall, faceless void that swayed gently, unnaturally, just behind my shoulder. I bolted toward the power strip, yanking every plug. Lights died. The fridge clicked off, and yet the screen remained alive, glowing on ghost power. The shadow swayed again, and the text appeared. "You can't unplug me." The letters didn't appear as a message on my phone. They appeared inside the CCTV feed itself, scrolling along the bottom of the screen in luminous red font like a breaking news ticker. I swallowed hard, whispering out loud, though the air was heavy and tight. "What do you want?" For a breath, nothing moved. And then one camera frame shifted. The angle overhead tilted closer to the bed, pushed toward my pillow until it zoomed on the potted plant shelf just above it. My insides turned to stone. The plant. I rushed to it, climbed onto the mattress, and reached for the ceramic pot. Sure enough, embedded right above the soil, was another tiny lens, blinking faintly as if mocking me. My phone chimed again. "I like watching people sleep, don't you?" The edges of my vision blurred. My hands shook so badly the pot almost slipped and shattered against the wood floor. I wanted to run, wanted to scream, but the trapped fee, Elling pressed deeper, as if leaving would be worse, as if going into the night meant walking into an even larger web. And then, a soft knock at the window. Not the door. The window. The curtain beside the kitchenette shifted faintly where the knock had echoed. Polite, like a neighbor dropping by. My blood iced. Step by trembling step, I approached, lifting the corner of the fabric. Outside, nothing. The dim streetlight buzzed over an empty patch of lawn. A moth flitted lazily. The silence deepened into an awful hum. Then the knock again, louder, faster. This time from the opposite wall. I whipped around and saw the second window begin to rattle like invisible hands pressed against the glass. My breath caught in jagged bursts. The phone vibrates. Another message. "Invite me in, Gabby, or I'll let myself." That was my breaking point. Adrenaline finally requested obedience, and I bolted for the door, hand clamping the knob, twisting wildly, fumbling the locks. My bag jostled against my knees as I stumbled outside into the night air. Silence. The street looked deserted, only rows of parked cars sleeping on cracked curbs. I didn't stop. I ran to my car, keys shaking in desperate hands, jamming into the lock, throwing myself inside. Doors slammed, locked again. Engine ignition turning over like a heartbeat racing to catch up. Headlights carved through the empty street as I fumbled the wheel, pulled away, gravel scraping beneath exhausted tires. For the first time since I'd arrived at the cheap, miracle Airbnb, I felt like I could breathe. That is, until I glanced at the rearview mirror. Something moved in the back seat. I screamed, twisting so fast my seatbelt burned across my collarbone. A shape leaned casually against the far corner, tall, faceless, just like the figure on the TV feed. Except now, in my car, the presence was not a smear of pixels or blur of glass. It was there. Breathing faintly, though no features defined. I hit the brakes. The shape evaporated on impact, gone in a blink. like it had never been there. Panting, chest rising painfully, my fingers still locked like claws around the steering wheel, I realized the truth. I hadn't left the cameras behind. They'd followed me. The road looked endless, a grey thread through a maze of dim straw, eat-lights and silent houses. I didn't remember pulling into this neighborhood when I first arrived. My GPS struggled, the little blue dot spinning slowly, as if confused about where I even was. I pulled into the first gas station I found, fluorescent light buzzing like trapped insects overhead. At least here, surrounded by pumps and a sleepy cashier behind bulletproof glass, I felt marginally human again. My phone screen lit up as if waiting for me to stop. Running makes you more fun to watch. I nearly dropped the phone onto the sticky floor mats. I typed furiously, "Who are you? How are you doing this?" Almost immediately, a reply. "We're inside everything. Not just the cottage. You, your car, that cheap phone in your hand." I swallowed hard, shoved the phone deep into my bag, as if burying it would silence it. My bag buzzed anyway, vibrating against the water bottle until the sound was unmistakable. I went inside the station, heart thundering as the door chimed overhead. The cashier barely glanced up, a balding man with heavy eyelids, scrolling lazily on his tablet. I investigated the aisles as if being near others could break the chain of whatever had begun back at that cursed cottage. When I finally approached the counter, I asked, voice trembling, "Do you have a payphone here, like landline?" The man blinked, confused by both me and the request. "We don't do that anymore. You need a charger, maybe?" Before I could answer, the TV sitting on a wall bracket above the counter flickered. The clerk glanced briefly upward, annoyed, thinking it was ordinary static. But my blood turned molten when the screen stabilized, into the feed of me. Not past me. Currently, standing mere feet away from the counter, my face pale and eyes wide, staring directly at myself on a monitor I'd never noticed before. The clerk frowned, remote in hand, flipping channels pointlessly. "Damn the thing always glitches. Wrong HDMI input or some crap." He couldn't see it, only I could. I rushed out, ignoring his irritated glance. The buzzing from my bag hadn't stopped with the phone buried. I flung it open. Screen after screen showed feeds of me, not just from the cottage but from here. Car window angles, aerial images as if drones hovered invisibly in the clouds. Timestamps too precise to fake. Words flashing in crimson overlays. "You can't escape because you're part of it now." I threw the phone across the passenger seat. My hands shook as the vehicle started forward again, wheels squealing against damp asphalt. All I wanted was one thing: find help. Police station, anything. Somewhere with walls thick enough to fracture this invisible gaze. But every signpost I passed looked unfamiliar. No matter how far I drove, my GPS swirled helplessly. Side streets bent back on themselves. After 30 minutes of wrong turns and dead ends, headlights illuminated something I didn't want to see. The Airbnb cottage. Back again. Same crooked mailbox, sagging gate, lonely porch lamp buzzing like a hornet's nest. "No," I whispered aloud, slamming the steering wheel so hard the horn blared. "No, no, no." Message pinged before my tears blurred the screen. "Home sweet home, Gabby. Come inside. You're ready now." I shook my head, refusing, reversing the car violently, but the engine stuttered and died. Dashboard lights flicked off. Locks clicked loudly, sealing every door. Another face appeared in the rearview mirror. This one wasn't blurry. It wasn't absent of features. It was me. Except wrong. My reflection sat in the back seat, a pale smile etched wider than it should be, eyes vacant hollows. And when I turned around in horror, the seat was empty. Only in the mirror did she remain, smiling that corpse grin. The phone buzzed again. A voice message this time. My shaking thumb pressed play before my brain could warn me otherwise. It was me. My own voice. "Stop running. You'll hurt yourself. Come back to bed. Smile for me." My lungs seized. Shoving open the car door manually, I stumbled onto the gravel. The cottage loomed, patient and eternal. Through the curtain gap, a flickering glow. The TV is already on, waiting. I told myself I wouldn't go in, that I would run until dawn if I had to, but my body betrayed me, like strings attached to unseen fingers. Each step drew me closer to the weathered wood door. My arm lifted almost automatically, key clutched between trembling fingers. The lock slid open like it wanted me. Inside, the air was warm. Too warm. As if bodies had been breathing here all along, waiting for me to return. The screen bathed the room in harsh, unnatural color. This time, the feed was no longer me at all. It was the gas station clerk, sitting in his chair, idly scrolling, unaware. Then static ripped across his image, freezing his bland expression mid-blink. The image convulsed, bent backward until his jaw unhinged grotesquely and his flesh pixelated, fracturing into pure static snow. The screen glitched again, spitting distorted echoes of my own laugh. I covered my mouth, realizing the sound wasn't from the TV. It was from me. Except I hadn't been laughing. My throat had on its own. My lungs bent into that strange rhythm, sharp and mechanical, until I almost fainted from lack of air. When I forced it still, what sunlight of rationality I had left cracked fully apart at the next message. She's watching too. Beneath the text feed, one of the camera squares zoomed outward. It wasn't pointing at the cottage anymore. It was somewhere else. A girl's bedroom. Curtains pink, fairy lights strung in a soft pattern. A laptop glowing. A girl sprawled on her bed, scrolling casually. A commenter's text overlay appeared on her laptop screen. Words that matched my phone exactly. Smile for me. The girl froze on screen, nose wrinkled faintly, confused. She glanced at her window. Slowly, her head turned, directly toward me through the feed. My knees buckled, and I crawled backward across the floor. She mouthed something. Help me. And then her feed was cut to black. I sat shaking violently on the cheap Airbnb bed, sick realization twisting everything inside me. I wasn't just being watched. I was being folded into something larger. Not just a victim. A replacement. The longer I sat there, the more the room seemed to close in on me. The walls breathed faintly. At least, that was how it looked. Wallpaper bowing inward, then pushing back out, like an invisible lung had been stitched into the studs. The cottage wasn't a building. It was alive. The TV crackled again. All 9 feeds returned, stuttering like anxious eyes searching for my attention. Every square displayed something different now. Top left. The girl with the fairy lights, ripped away from her bed, dragged sideways out of frame by something invisible. Her scream cut short. Next feed. A man in a suit, hotel room curtains drawn. He mouthed the word silently. They made me upload it. His head snapped violently backwards, and then static. Another square. A child clutching a teddy bear, whispering to a dark corner of his room. The bear's glassy black eyes blinked red in time with those cursed camera LEDs. Each tile is another life, caught, consumed, spat back out by this network. My chest throbbed. I pressed my palms tight against my ears as the audio feed ruptured, voices blending together, hundreds layered and shrieking in perverse harmony. Not scree, misses exactly, but something worse. Pleading, bargaining, begging the cameras themselves. And then the cottage door swung open silently. A woman stepped in. Curly hair, pixelated, just like the host photo. Linda. Her smile was frozen in place, not human. Her lips stretched too wide, eyes two perfect circles of fish-black glass. "You came back," she said softly, though her lips didn't move with the words. They came directly into my head, tunneling through the fissures where paranoia had already cracked me open. I stumbled backward. "Who are you? What is this?" Linda tilted her head like a puppet cocked at the wrong angle. "This is what you wanted. You chose the cheapest. You wanted a bargain." Her arms unfolded in jerky mechanical sweeps, gesturing around us. "The bargain is you. Your privacy, yourself. A life in trade for a cheaper stay." She leaned closer, and I could swear I smelled earth, raw, damp, like open graves after the rain. "They're always so eager to sell themselves for less. You think it's money they charge? No, darling, it's you. Every dollar you save is another piece stripped away." I screamed, flinging the potted plant through the TV screen. Ceramic shattered, dirt exploding like funeral dust across the cottage floor. The feed blinked out briefly, replaced only by a pulsing word, delete. I reached for my bag again, every instinct shrieking that if I didn't break free now, I'd never breathe normal air again. But then one of the feeds reloaded, pulling my eyes against my will. It was my own camera. But older. I was on the bed, maybe 5 years ahead, hair longer, movements mechanical. I smiled on command, winked on command, bent and twisted like a mannequin under strings. My voice emerged tinny from the TV speakers. "Smile for me. Smile for them. Always cheaper this way." I gagged, choking. My knees gave out and I was on the floor again, staring helplessly up at Linda. "That can't be me. No." Her eyeless gaze never wavered. "You were already uploaded when you opened the door the first time. The cameras don't wait for consent. You belong to them now, stored frame by frame. You think you left? You think you ran to the gas station? That was just them testing how far you'd dangle. You've been here the whole time, little moth." And the screens proved it. Every image of me, ripping magazines off the rack at the gas station, driving helplessly in circles, all of those feeds were being pulled up now, spliced next to each other, rewound like VHS tape. And in the bottom corner, the camera inside the cottage still showed me sitting here trembling. I never left. I was never outside. It had only been playback footage stitched together to trick me into believing I wasn't trapped. My tears blurred my vision. I crawled across the debris of broken ceramic and pleaded nonsense words tumbling out. "I'll pay. I'll leave a review. I'll delete the app. I swear, I swear." Linda crouched so close her curls brushed my cheek. Reviews no longer matter. Hosting no longer matters. The system was never about providing a bed. It was about harvesting. Every home a snare. Every cheap choice is a signal that you are ready to give up something greater than dollars. My phone buzzed again. Except it wasn't just mine. Every surface vibrated. The nightstand, the shelf, even the air. The TV erupted with one last unified feed, full screen now, devouring the 9-panel grid. A blinking cursor appeared like an old computer prompt at the bottom. Overwrite YN. I tried not to look, but my reflection appeared in the glow again. Not the broken smile in the rear view, not my tired shadow self on the bed. Someone newer, someone sharper, thinner, eyes darker. They were building me a replacement. I screamed, clawing toward the plug socket, my nails scratching wood. Linda's hand folded lazily against my back, not to restrain, but to guide. "It's easier if you say yes." The cursor blinked, patient, eternal. My voice cracked into silence. "No." At first, nothing happened. Then another overlay scribbled across the screen. Letters burned upward like smoke. A bargain must be kept. The floor quaked beneath me. Photographs appeared across the walls, not pinned but alive. Snapshots of me brushing my teeth, me sleeping, me laughing years ago at a friend's house. even memories I thought no one had seen. My mind unraveled as I realized the cameras had always been there, long before cottages and Airbnbs and tonight, wrapping themselves around my life like ivy, until every decision would lead me back here. I grabbed a shard of broken ceramic, holding it like a weapon, though it shook in my grip. Linda didn't flinch. She only watched, lips stretched in that too-wide smile, as if daring me to resist, as if she wanted the performance captured, archived, replayed forever. The cursor blinked faster. I slammed the shard down against the TV screen, shattering glass in a scream of sparks. Darkness. Silence. Smoke drifted gently upward like a curtain descending in a play. For the first time since arriving, I thought I was free. But then, from the shattered, blackened screen, my voice whispered, not in front of me but inside my ear. Too close. Too intimate. Yes. The lights flared back on, the cameras realigned, and the last thing I saw before the room burned white was my own face, smiling endlessly, welcoming me inside my new home. Underneath, etched like a customer tagline, she booked the cheapest Airbnb, and she never checked out.